How to run a business from home without losing your sanity on today's episode.
You are listening to the Champion Hustle Podcast. Play to succeed in business and in life. Featuring Levi Hunsaker and Ryan Black.
Hello there and welcome to the Champion Hustle Podcast. This is episode number 58. My name is Ryan Black.
And my name is Levi Hunsaker. Ryan, good morning.
Guten Morgen. Great to have you. Bright sunny day.
Yes, it is. It rained yesterday finally. And in Utah, we're kind of in a drought, so that was a much needed relief.
Well, good. Where was I when it rained?
I have no idea. Maybe it didn't rain at your house, which is funny because we don't live that far away from each other.
Yeah, maybe, I live on the other side of the tracks? So
yep.
On my side of the tracks, there's
side.
No rain is allowed. Oh man. Well, before we dive into the topic today, our birthday month is over, right?
Yeah, the birthday month is over. So we're going to be going through and tallying everything that came out of the list of entries for the contest, and in the next coming weeks, as soon as we've got everything finalized and dialed in, we will be letting you know who the winners are of the contest.
Right on. Cool.
Right on. Channeling inner Matthew McConaughey. All right.
He's a frequent visitor, especially on our pre-show conversations before we start recording.
Yeah.
We should make another show that's just like the pre and the post show.
Oh my goodness.
There's a whole different dynamic there, very different very different vibe on that show. So this topic today is really interesting. I think if we had done this topic a year ago, it would have been very different than if doing it today. The reason that I say
true.
that is, I've been working from home for years and years. So, but over the last year, a lot of people have had to make that switch where, they've never worked from home before. They opposed the idea. And by necessity, they had to work from home. And now they're like, well, this is kind of cool. I want to keep doing this.
Yeah. For me, I wouldn't have had the level of experience in this area as I would have liked to be able to talk about this topic a year ago. And a lot of that has stemmed from, I was doing business from home as a side hustle, but my everyday job, I was going into the office. Yeah. Well, in the last year, I can probably still count on two hands the number of times that I've had to go into the office. Everything else has been working from home, even for my job as an engineer. And so I've had to learn how to balance that together with, working a full plus time job sometimes, and also still continuing to work business in that side hustle mode, all online, all through, getting my home office set up and dialed in. And it's been a good thing. It's been a learning experience. I've learned some things that don't work so well, and I've learned some things that work a little better.
Yeah. Hey, but that's how it is for all of us, right? It's a process of learning and optimizing. So basically what we have today are some different ideas and tips and suggestions for those of you, whether you're in the camp of, hey, run my business from home, or, the day job situation where you're like, well, I would still like to work from home, but I want to be able to make better use of my time and make it a stress-free experience. So that's what we're going to be going through today. So you ready, Levi?
Yep. So we had a prior episode that we kind of talked about how to be super efficient, how to to kind of set your home office up for extreme efficiency. So we definitely recommend going back. I can't remember what episode that was. I'm looking back through our notes. Episode 6. So talking about extreme organization and efficiency, and there's some good tips in there for your office space. Something that I've added to that is get yourself set up in a way that works well for you. So for me, where I spend a lot of time on the computer every day, whether we're searching for deals or working as a software engineer, I've got my monitor set up, but I bought this standing desk, and that can raise and lower, and sitting for hours and hours and hours on end, that's not very fun.
Yeah.
So get up, get moving, and get involved in your day-to-day work just by putting your body to work while you work. And so that's a good thing. Like every time we record these, I'm standing up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good tip. Those standing desks. I know I don't have one currently, but I've had one before, and makes a big difference if you're spending long hours on the front of the computer. Another alternative is, if you don't have a standing desk, or I guess even if you do, is to get, rather than sitting on an office chair, you get a yoga ball or an exercise ball. And,
yes.
I used to do that when I don't spend as much time anymore in front of the computer. But when I did, that was something that I would have, and so I would swap out the desk chair, the computer chair for that, and then you kind of dance around and bounce and move, and it keeps your blood flowing. And when you combine that with a standing desk, man, then you're moving all day.
Man, it breaks up the monotony of the day. So that's one thing that I've found that it's helped me a lot in the last year.
Awesome. So I think one of the biggest challenges for working from home is creating that separation between your personal time or family time and the work time. Because if you're used to going to a different physical location, you have some level of a commute. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 5 hours, depends on where you live. But there's the physical separation, and so that gives you kind of a transition time to go from, this is where I live and rest and eat and sleep and all that, versus this is where I am being productive. And so that's one of the challenges that can be is separating that and maintaining that distinction between those two environments. Because when you're working from home, they are going to meld together. It's just I don't think there's really a way around that.
No, and there really isn't a way around it. But the big thing is making sure that you've got it, setting expectations, so that everybody knows what's going to be going on.
Yeah. Well, and one way of doing that is, through time blocking, which I know we've talked about before. Time blocking and being able to manage the expectations of family members and letting them know, okay, look, this is the block of time when I am going to be working. Pretend that I am gone. Now, if you have small children, it's kind of harder for them to understand that. They're like, yeah, but you're here. Well,
that takes time, for sure.
I am here. Let's pretend I'm not. Let's do a game. Once they get a little bit older, then they understand. Oh, okay. Dad or mom is doing. They're doing work time, and so it is what it is. But yeah, the time blocking is very important to be able to set those schedules and say, look, this is the time when I'm at the office. If you need me, text, because I got to get stuff done. Very important.
Yeah, and just as important in that, time blocking is put your family time, put your personal time in your calendar, and protect that just as much as you would a client meeting. If not, I would say protect it even more, because it's so easy to say, oh, well, I'll just sacrifice this personal time. And a lot of times you say, I'll just sacrifice this family time. And a few weeks ago, we had Braxton Dutson on the show, and he was talking about that.
Yeah.
And, the way that he put it in terms of kind of like a financial bank account, like a relationship bank account. And, you got to put those deposits in so that occasionally, not a consistency, occasionally when a big emergency comes up, you can say, okay, I'm sorry, we had this planned, can we reschedule?
Yeah.
And if you're making those deposits, taking that one withdrawal once in a while is not such a big thing, but hold that personal time sacred and look for ways to reschedule business things so that it doesn't impact what commitments you've made to your personal self or self-care, exercise, fitness, health, that kind of stuff, mental health, and especially to your family time, because that's important too.
Well, and I think it's also valuable to get your family involved and get their buy-in on what it is you're doing. Obviously, depending on the nature of the business or the work you're doing, there's going to be some limitations as far as what can be done or schedules that need to be kept. Either way, it's valuable to get their buy-in and say, look, this is kind of the requirements that I need to take care of for my business. Let's coordinate and figure out and let them be a contributor to that plan, because if they're contributing, they're gonna be like, oh well, they feel like they have skin in the game and they helped choose it and it's not being forced upon them, and so then you have a little more buy-in.
And if you are able to involve them directly, like let them come work with you, because it's very clear. It's like, this is work time, but you're welcome to come spend time with me. We will be working, and give them a job, give them a task, and have them do it with you. And you're still getting quality time. They recognize that you are wanting to spend time with them, but also realize the value of the work and the business that you're doing.
Yeah. And one thing I do, and maybe this is like cheating, but so one thing that I do sometimes, if I'm in the zone, I'm working on something, and one of my kids wants to, come in, and I'll just say, hey, come in and, read a book or color or, play with Legos or something. If you notice behind me, there's a couch, there's a big leather couch, and there's a coffee table behind me. And so even though I'm not necessarily talking with them, even if I'm on a phone call or something, I say, hey, come on in the office. It'd be nice to just have you in here with me, hanging out while I'm on my call or while I'm doing whatever. They seem to enjoy that, even though, right, they know that, okay, Dad can't really talk to me because he's doing something, but they're in the same room, so I also like doing that as well when I can.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But another important thing is to have a dedicated, isolated space. I mean, if the listeners are watching the video on this, they can see you have an office with doors. My office is in the basement. I call it my lair, and but there's a door to the upstairs, and this is a dedicated, isolated space. You have a dedicated, isolated space that it's like, okay, when we're in this space, this is work time, and that can also be a reasonable way to time block and say, you know what, I'm just not going to be in my workspace during family time or during personal time, and if you can do that. That provides that separation for you a little bit.
Yeah, and if you do have, like I've got, if your house has a dedicated office, or maybe you've converted one of your bedrooms into an office or something, it's really nice if you have the option, like I do, which is glass doors. Even if you had, maybe an extra bedroom that you're going to permanently make an office. We've done this before in other houses. I would recommend swapping out the door for a glass door. And that's because one of the indicators that I use, whether it's with your spouse or your children or the dog, well, the dog's another story, but your spouse or your children, when you have the glass door, you can close the door so you can have kind of some separation and some quiet. If you're on a phone call, right, you don't hear everyone screaming in the background as much. But then people can come and look through the door and see, my dad or whoever is in there doing something. He's busy.
Yeah.
So if
that's
I'm
huge.
able to have people come in while I'm working on something, I just leave the doors open. So they know, Dad's doing something, but they just walk in. If the door's closed, guaranteed. And you actually may have seen, if you go back through some prior episodes, especially the earlier episodes, you'll notice some small people coming and peering through the glass and realizing, oops.
Sometimes even sneaking through the door.
Yeah, like army crawling across the floor to try to grab the dog or something.
I was rolling during those episodes. So kind of in that dedicated, isolated space, how do you balance that, having the dedicated, isolated space and getting your family involved? And like you mentioned, it's like, yeah, you're welcome to come in and sit and read a book or something, right?
Yeah.
So early, as I was doing this, I was like, nope, can't have the kids in the space. I need to be able to focus and do work and things like that. And that just wasn't working very well. So for me, what I found is I just basically said my kids are welcome in any of this space behind me or to the side of me, in the office or in the basement area where I have my office. But it's all about setting those proper expectations. It's like, okay, I'm on calls. You've got to be quiet. If the lights and camera and microphone are on, it's really funny to watch them come down and go, huh, and just pause. And they're like extra quiet when they see something like that.
Yeah.
But they're fairly quiet most of the time. But it's just funny if you could see the reaction of my kids as they come down and see when we're like recording something like this. It's just like this complete pause. Like they pretend if they freeze that nothing's going to happen. But I find that to be much more manageable because they can come down, they can give me hugs, they can do whatever, but they know that if I'm on calls, they need to check whether I'm, recording, doing a video call or on a telephone call first, before they just come in and start asking a bunch of questions. And it's not perfect. It's not 100%, but it's just kind of working through that and setting the expectations. My youngest is 7 years old, so it's a little easier. Young kids, that's maybe more of a challenge, but you just kind of have to do the best you can with where you're at.
Exactly. And one other thing that I do, specifically when we're recording, because I do recording as well, besides the podcast for different videos and social media things and such that I create, is you can't see it, but on the other side of that door, because it's hanging on the outside, I actually have one of those little door hangers. Like the things when you go to a hotel that says "Do Not Disturb" that you hang on the door? I have one of those, but it's bright red and it says "Recording in Progress." And so my kids know, and it was like $5 on Amazon, right? So I got this little door hanger. And so anytime that we're doing this and recording, I hang that. So if they're coming from upstairs or on the main floor and they walk around the corner, they can look and see this bright red sign and they know, Dad's recording. I'm not going to go and peer through the window or come barging in. So that's kind of an extra layer of protection that's easy and simple. As soon as we're done, I go pull the sign off. And so they know if they see that red recording sign, shh, be quiet because I'm recording and don't come in.
Yep. I think I need to get me one of those, except it's going to have to be a big bright red sign that is just seen from the top of the stairs.
With like strobe lights and stuff.
Yeah, I like it. One of those on-air lights.
Yeah, and that's basically what I mean. Right, my background was in production, and so there was quiet on set. Quiet on set is something that I barked at. I don't know how many people, how many times, because you have to have silence, and so it's more of a nicer approach to yelling quiet on set at everybody. You just have a little hanger that means shh. So
I like it. Okay, so one of the biggest things, we talked about time blocking. Mm-hmm. Time blocking only works as well as you do.
Yeah.
And now what do I mean by that? if you time block something and don't actually stick to that schedule, what good is the schedule? Now, that being said, let's play devil's advocate here a little bit. As you're brand new or fairly new in business, what you think your schedule is going to be and what it actually is going to be a learning process. So
two very different things.
Yeah, give yourself some grace, but try to stick to that schedule as best you can, and then you will learn over time what's working and what's not. And like maybe you say, oh, this is going to take me 10 minutes and it takes you an hour to do something. Well, first, you're going to get better at doing that thing over time. And second, why is it taking you an hour?
Yeah.
But also, maybe it should have been a 20-minute task instead of a 10-minute task. So you'll learn over time, but stick to that schedule, get stuff done, be hyper-focused, really be efficient. There's a method to doing this, but a lot of it is, give yourself a challenge. Set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes and try and get a task done. Maybe you blocked 30 minutes out, but give yourself the challenge to see if you get done 15 minutes early. And so really focus and stop trying to make everything so perfect. Just get it done.
Yeah. Well, and Parkinson's law, definitely applies where, we will stretch things to fit within the allotted amount of time.
Yep.
So many times you really don't need as much time as you think to get something done. Just you kind of give yourself a little bit more urgency and you get her knocked out, get her done. So, I had another thought that came that I was going to share and it disappeared.
Well, must not be for this episode. Or maybe it'll come later.
Yeah.
So just kind of on that same note, like one of the most frustrating things of running your own business is when you look at what you plan to do and what you didn't get done.
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on what you didn't get done, focus on what you did get done. And then come back and say, okay, let's evaluate. Because instead of being in a place of judgment, judgment is kind of this negative mental space. So instead of being in that place of judgment in your business, in your schedule, in your progress, in your efficiency, look at it and say, okay, what did I get done? So start thinking, what things are working? What things should I keep doing? What things should I start doing? Maybe then look at it and say, okay, what things really didn't work? What should I stop doing? And then think about what the things you should continue. So you're actually evaluating and saying, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is how I move forward to the next level. So what can I do? What might I do differently going forward so that we can take that, level up, be more efficient, get more stuff done, and just be okay with where you're at in the moment if you were trying and working to the best of your abilities now. So this is a conversation that I had with my daughter the other day. She got done doing her aerial silk training class, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't do very well. I didn't do a good job today." And that's kind of disappointing when you see your kids kind of down on themselves. More because you know the mental damage that it can do if that goes on for a long time.
Right.
And so she and we were having a conversation about what is best. What is your best effort? And the funny thing about best is, well, first, that's a judgment word. But if we look at it and say, is my best in the morning going to be the same as my best at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
No. Best is just what it is in the moment. If you give it your full effort, your full attention, work to the best of your abilities in that moment, that's your best effort, period. And to try and compare that to another time or to another person, that doesn't really work. And, even when you say, well, I'm just competing against myself, that's true, but your best in a given moment is not always compared to your personal best ever. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some room to just get out there and do your best in that moment, and then figure out how to improve that in the future. So our last episode, we were talking about improvement, constant and never ending improvement, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this is coming from, is be okay, accept where you're at, but push forward and just try and get that little bit better tomorrow.
Yeah. That even if it's the 0.05%.
Exactly.
That was the smallest one. So,
it could get smaller, but we're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that's important to remember is there's always going to be tomorrow, right? If sometimes when working from home, you feel like, well, shoot, I can keep going. It's 11 o'clock or it's midnight. I can just push a little bit harder and then be done. Yeah, but there's tomorrow too. In a couple more hours, guess what? The work's still going to be there. You can take care of it in the morning. Granted, there are certain situations where that's not true, but the majority of situations, it'll be fine if you push it back till tomorrow. You got to get yourself in the mind space of, if I were going into the office, would I be staying, until 9, 10, 11 o'clock every single night in the office when everybody else leaves at 5? Maybe you would. If so, then it's time to reevaluate. What are you doing with your life? Because there's more to life than working. But it's easy to just keep pushing later. Tomorrow's going to come. Hopefully you don't bite the dust while you're asleep, right? But tomorrow's going to come. And well, if you do bite the dust, who cares if you didn't finish the project, right? Doesn't really matter.
So that's an interesting point, is there's always going to be more work.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, whether you have more work on your plate right now, or whether you finish all that and you say, okay, what's next? What am I going to create next? You're going to make more work for yourself. So the idea that you want to push through, I've done like 36 hours straight. I call that the engineer's walk of shame, where you are still at work in the same clothes that you were wearing yesterday. Because I didn't go home. I was there all night. So I felt bad for my coworkers. I was probably a little bit ripe by that point, but you have to think, is this a real deadline, like a hard deadline? I have to deliver something to a customer. Well, that's one thing. But if it's just a self-imposed deadline, I want to get this done by Friday, when there's not really any driving thing for that, you want to drive for success, but you don't want to over push yourself, because you need to have other areas of your life to be part of that. And so another big part of this, as you're working, we have a tendency, and me especially, I'm still working on this, to just pack our schedules. Oh, well, I've got 15 minutes here. Sure, I can meet with this person. When have you ever had a 15-minute conversation with somebody? I haven't seen it be a possibility. And so you want to leave yourself some buffer room. And, from my background in computing and engineering, if you book 100% of a processor, you get terrible performance.
Yeah.
Once you start getting above like 85% booked, that's when you actually start to see degrading performance. So give yourself some extra time, that extra little bit, that 15% of flex time. Give yourself some flex time. Maybe that's going to be catching up on some work. Maybe that's going to be allowing you to take a breather and take a walk around the building, or take a walk outside to go do something. Maybe that's going to be to allow you to get into a creative space and figure out, okay, what's my next step? What am I going to create next?
Yeah.
Because then you can do a lot better in your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Drive yourself hard, but don't drive yourself face first into the ground.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Take it from me. Let me be a cautionary tale.
You don't want to be like Levi. That's the moral of this whole episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep. Nailed it.
Oh, well, cool. I think we've beaten this dead horse long enough.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we hope that you take something from this, even if it's just one little nugget, and go make your business life better.
Yeah.
Keep your sanity. Keep your family involved. Keep your personal passions alive, because it's way too easy for any of that to take a back seat to running your business.
Yeah. And keeping in mind that, telecommuting, working from home is something that's just going to continue to get more prevalent. So,
yep.
Even if you're like, well, right now I don't really do that, still got to keep your options open. So it's important to have that and have a plan and be ready to go when that presents itself for you in the future. So that's that's what we got for you today.
Yeah. So we hope you got value out of today. Let us know. Shoot us a message on our website and let us know if there's a topic that you're like, man, I really wish you guys would cover this.
Yeah.
And we'll add it to our production schedule. So just let us know, and come on back next week, because next week we're going to talk about how to control real estate without actually owning it. Ooh.
Very intriguing. So join us then, and until then, take care and have a great week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Champion Hustle podcast. For more great content and to join our online community, visit us at championhustle.com.
Hey, what are you, a bobblehead? I'm a fish.
With your DS controllers?
Or, I don't know. These are my kids. Nintendo Switch, I think is what it is.
Oh, that's what it is. I have no idea. I'm so out
bobblehead.
of the... You like that?
Yeah.
It would be better if I did this.
There you go.